I've had a lot of people that have asked me about my opinion on the whole eSIM thing for the iPhone 14. By a lot of people, I mean like four. And one of them might have been my own reply to my own comment in ignorance. Who knows? So, talking about eSIM, what is it? Like, what is an eSIM? Okay, we'll talk about this first. An eSIM is basically an electronic SIM card. So it's digital. So whenever you get a new phone, you're like, oh, got to get a new SIM, got to pop the SIM card into my new phone. That goes away with the iPhone 14. Now, there needs to be a distinction made here because in the United States, North America, eSIM only, but apparently, I believe what it is overseas, internationally, you can still get it with the SIM card. So I might have to import one of those. Does this create a problem? Well, one, this I think is the latest attempt of Apple to lock you into their phones. And yes, this is something I think that they actively do under the guise of security and promise and all of sorts of other things. See, here's the thing. When it comes to eSIM, people keep saying, oh, well, if somebody takes your phone, then you can just deactivate the SIM in the phone entirely. They can't just take your SIM card and put it in another phone, whatever. Okay, who cares? You can turn that off anyway. It's not that big of a deal. However, if you have an eSIM, it makes it much more difficult to try and change phones, which means it was already difficult to leave an iPhone. This has been going on since the beginning. We had iTunes, we had the proprietary cable, we still have the proprietary cable. You got the apps and services, which they want to lock you into. Apple, iMessage, anyone that ring a bell? Yeah, everybody loves iMessage. That's probably the number one reason why people don't leave iPhones. Not just because they like them, but also the group messages. If you ever lived in the iPhone world using iMessage and have group text, and then you try and go to an Android phone, it's kind of a night and day difference. Now, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of stuff with RCS. There's a lot of conversation going on right now how Apple's evil. Go figure. Because they don't want to open up the messaging platform for other people to use. That's a whole nother video. But this is, I believe, their latest attempt to lock you in. Also with wearables too. That's another attempt because once you get an Apple Watch, you're definitely not going to get rid of your iPhone. And that's the thing with Apple. They make probably more money off of keeping you locked into the ecosphere and holding on to their phone, arguably, than they do long-term for when it comes to actual phone sales in some situations. Because if they get you paying for Apple Fitness Plus, Apple TV, additional iCloud storage, all of these things that just skim extra money off of the top, that they can continue to monetize a platform. Before it was, okay, you buy the phone, and then it's a net loss for them at a certain point because if they got to replace it, if it's under warranty, if there's problems, they're never going to make any more money on you off of that phone. And especially if you decide that you don't like the phone and you want to go somewhere else. So what better way to keep people locked into a phone than to put as many ankle chains on them as possible to keep them from going? You've got your AirPods, you've got your Apple Watch, you've got your MacBook, you got your iPad, you got your Apple TV Plus they gave you free for a year, you got your cloud storage. All of these things, they just make it even harder. So now that you've got an eSIM, you're like, well, I got to go to the store, I got to get another phone, I got to get a SIM card, they're going to charge me for the SIM card over at my carrier store, all these different things. Do I think it's inherently the worst thing ever? No, because probably, I think Apple has one of the highest retention rates on the face of the planet. So you have to look at it two ways. You look at it from me, who is a, independent, technology-minded person where you should be able to freely move from one platform to the other as much as you want, whichever device works best for you. And then some people just want something that works. They like all the nice things that just work. You get your iPhone, you open up your AirPods for the first time, it connects to your phone. It's kind of hard to want to leave that because that's the thing with Apple. I say it's boring, but it works so well. So this is just the latest iteration of another thing that people don't think about of how they're trying to lock you in so you will never leave Apple. You're in the ivory tower of Apple world and there's no key and you'll never get out. But you may be okay with that. So I don't want to be like, oh, you people are so stupid, you don't see what Apple's doing. That's not what this conversation is about. But when I first saw that, there were two things I thought. One, it's going to be a huge headache for me because I swap back and forth between phones all the time. I'm continually reviewing phones, and I always have an Apple phone, I always have an Android phone, but sometimes, like when I was gone the last couple of weeks, I was rocking two Android phones. I wasn't carrying an Apple, no iPhone all week, or 2 weeks. So in this world, I wouldn't be able to do that, unless the phone does support eSIM, which more and more are, but a lot of times I end up using phones that don't necessarily have that level of support, or they're Chinese phones that are imported in, or it's like my Sony phone that doesn't even have 5G on AT&T or T-Mobile here. So for people who are tech reviewers, this is something you're going to see on Twitter. It's probably going to get blown more out of proportion than a normal person. Not that tech people aren't normal people, but we don't do normal things with our phones, and we switch phones a lot. So if you're one of those people who switches phones a lot, this is not going to be good for you. And it's going to be something that's probably very, very a big pain in the rear end, because you'll have to communicate with your carrier and see however it is they actually implement their eSIM change. Now, it's nice if you get like a Pixel 5, Pixel 6, you go through the Google Fi, you try and set up your eSIM when you set up your phone, or when you set up your iPhone the first time. When you set up the phone initially with eSIM, it's usually not too life-ending. But if you want to move to another phone, that creates another problem. And then if you want to move and then you want to move back, you're just not going to have that freedom of mobility anymore. And that's something that frustrates me as an end user, and it frustrates me as a tech reviewer. And then the whole locking in argument, because yes, this is like one of the last straws on the camel's back to lock you into Apple forever. Basically, I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but I mean, think about it. Every time they come out with a new thing, that's one less reason you would ever leave Apple. Why are you going to buy new cables? Why are you going to buy a new charging brick? You've got the MagSafe charger for your phone you use all the time. That's going to be useless. You can't use that with a Samsung phone. Then you've got your iMessage. Well, then you're not going to be able to talk to your friends. Then you're going to be ostracized because blue bubble versus green bubble. And then you've got your AirPods, which are not even going to work properly with your new phone, which maybe they will work, but you're not going to get all the same features, and it's not going to be as good. There's so much stuff, and you might as well go sell the iPad because, well, it doesn't communicate with your Samsung phone. Of course, that's way out there, and it's really not that big of a deal. iPads are pretty cool. I have one. I never use it, but I have one. So, yeah, that's my thought on eSIM. I think it's just their latest trap to trick people. Well, not trick people, but they're just locking you in. And you may be totally okay with that. And, I mean, sure, I think most people are, and I don't think this presents a problem for most people. I don't want to be doom and gloom about this. I mean, I can talk out over this side and say, yes, obviously they're trying to lock people in. They don't want you to leave their phone platform. But then on the other side of the coin, most people I know with Apple are pretty happy with Apple and don't want to go anywhere else. So I don't think it's the end of the world. For me, I just don't like it as a consumer. I don't like it as a tech person. But what are you going to do? And for all the people that say, oh, well, just don't buy one, because then that'll show them. Okay, that worked out really well with the proprietary charger. That worked out really well. We still don't have USB-C. That's worked out really well with all the other things that are Apple only, like taking away the headphone jack and all that other silly stuff that they've done. At no time in history have we ever ended up with the feature that's come back. Like the SD card, it hasn't come back yet. The headphone jack, it's not coming back. So it's just one of those things where, yeah, I get it. Okay, yes, we can talk with our wallets and we can make these decisions, but seeing as they're like the biggest, company in the world, I don't really think they're going to have a whole lot of heartache if somebody says, one person that's out of every 1,000 says, I'm not buying an iPhone because of the eSIM. I think you'll lose. But that's just me. So that's just the life of tech consumerism when it comes to phones. And again, it'll be seamless for most people. Hopefully it's not that big of a problem once it comes to dealing with this with the carriers, because the original implementation with the eSIM, I think what was the iPhone 11 or the iPhone 12 was the first one with the eSIM. It had a lot of problems, especially with T-Mobile getting compatibility for it. So I think hopefully they've ironed out most of the kinks here. I would hope so, but I'm sure there will be some heartache as this rolls over this next week, because they're coming out in a couple of days. So that's my thoughts. That's what I think about eSIM. And I've answered all three of yours questions about my opinion on it, and I can shut up now. I'm sure that'll make you guys happy. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions or comments, please go down in the comment section. I'll get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this helpful, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.